Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colleen Lockoff.
And I'm Meredith Lockoff.
And welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colleen. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meredith?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colleen here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Spiritual Sisters with Sass. We have a special guest today, Susan. We're going to have Susan introduce herself. Tell us about you, Susan.
I love that sassy part, sisters. Love that. So I'm an author, believe it or not, never thought I would be, and what I call a transformationalist, because I've walked through a lot of ash and alchemized it into incredible beauty. And that's why I'm here today.
Love that.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here. I just want to dive into it. So what's the ash?
Yeah. So I was born into the sign of Scorpio. So those Scorpios out there, you'll get it totally. Like, just cannot wait for that next moment to break everything apart, explode it, and then rise up from it. And yeah, I've confronted a lot of stuff. Like many of us that are psychic and empaths, my childhood was a train wreck. It was super chaotic, brutal. I really identify with you, Lynn, and with you, Meredith. I'm the middle of five, and none of my brothers or sister have had the same childhood that I did. And it was slathered with every kind of abuse possible, physical, emotional, sexual, you name it. It was all there. I came right into the perfect family. And I know many of us have amnesia and blackouts in that childhood. No, I'm 18 months in that pack and play for way too long, screaming. And when I was finally recognized, it wasn't with love. Let's just put it that way. My father's a genius astrophysicist, but he's also an alcoholic and Peter Pan. And my mom comes from a huge line of trauma addicts and dysfunction. And so she self-soothed with food. And back then, they prescribed diet pills for that addiction. And so I was raised by an alcoholic and a speed freak. Both had their struggle with mental illnesses. And it wasn't until later in my life that I put two and two together and realized my mom was schizophrenic, because she could be so loving and supportive and gentle. She could be like Martha Stewart. And then boom, on a dime, she'd be beating me and I wouldn't know what for and what caused it. So there was no real steady platform in that household at all. And what I did to cope was to try to be perfect, to stay mom. I always had that smile plastered on my face. None of my friends knew what was happening inside our home. And, some of my brothers and sister don't even seem like They knew what was going on in our home. The real abuse was between my oldest brother and I. I think he's 4.5 years older than I. And I had the memories as a child, but I shoved them down so deep into my body that it wasn't till I was 25 and getting sober that the memories started to come up through body sensation, because I know a lot of you are like me. You just feel it in the body, you feel it in the throat, it's in your solar plexus. I have a funky hip from holding a lot of rage and anger. Um, but when I was a kid, I just envisioned getting out. I was just very driven. I was an achievement oriented. And I was going to go to New York City and I was going to make it. And I used to watch Barbara Walters on my beanbag in the basement on my belly. And I wanted to be Barbara Walters. So at 17, I graduated high school on a Friday night. The car was packed Saturday morning, 7:45. I was gone. And that was pretty much it. By 19, I was in New York City on an internship from college in arts management and went back at 21 after I graduated and started working with this really fancy international global talent management firm. Like everybody who was everybody back then, was represented by this agency. And I was really excited to be there, but they didn't pay crap. So I picked up a side hustle before it was chic, training people, personal training. Back then, that was sort of unheard of. And lo and behold, Barbara Walters became my client. So how's that for some manifestation? She was amazing. I mean, she would have loved you the way you're so sassy and out there and really honest. Like, she just was super cool. And I knocked on her door one day and she took one look at me and she's like, Susan, get in here. I'm like, okay. She goes, what's going on with you? And back then, like poker face, right? And she got it out of me within minutes. I'd been sexually harassed in the workplace the day before. It kicked up so much trauma. I could hardly function, but I felt like I was doing okay. And she said, okay, I am coming into work with you today and we're going to confront this man together. Barbara, I think I got it. I'll handle it. So I did confront my boss and he promptly fired me. I had a couple months cash in the bank. I was 25, living alone, newly sober, just extricated myself out of those abusive relationships we find, right, for ourselves because we're repeating the trauma that's not healed. And I was determined not to go back into that relationship. And Barbara said, hey, come work for my fiance. He's opening this film distribution company. It'll be a great gig. And I'm like, yeah, Barbara, I can't be an admin anymore. I can't do it. And so at 25, I opened my own talent brokerage firm, matching celebrities to brands before it was chic. And Donnie Deutsch somehow got a hold of me, he's a television icon. But back then he was running Daddy's ad agency. So he said, you think you can get me Andy Warhol? Because like the tri-state Pontiac dealers, it'd be so good. I'm like, let me try. Like I needed the cash. I was going to make this deal no matter what. And nobody would answer at the factory. So I took the train down there and I knocked on the door. It was this big old brownstone on, I think it was East 33rd, might have been West 33rd. I don't remember. But Fred, Andy's manager, answered the door and he looked at me. He's like, yeah. And so I explained why I'm there. And he said, okay, come back tomorrow at the same time and I'll let you talk to Andy. I couldn't believe it. So I did show up the next day sweating like bullets, couldn't take a shot before, I had to show up totally sober. And I'm sitting in the waiting area and two double doors open and it's Fred. He sticks his head out. He goes, Andy, we'll see you now. So I got up and that room was pitch black. I thought, what the hey is going to happen to me now? But I stepped in and there was this pin spotlight coming down on that platinum hair that went 17 different directions. I mean, he had the best hair. And these three pugs running around the studio, and he would pick them up and hold them like they were babies. He wouldn't give me eye contact. He barely recognized I was in the room. But because I'm so in tune from dodging trauma, I could read people's minds telepathically until I was 11 when it became too dangerous. Full sentences. I knew how to bob and weave. I knew what they were feeling, what they were experiencing. And I could tell even though he was an incredible artist and so well known, and by then the Campbell soup can was, selling into the billions.
Yeah.
I knew he was like so isolated and all he wanted was recognition and he really wanted to connect, but he couldn't because he was frozen in that agony that a lot of us walk around in every day. And I could totally get hold of that. And I saw what he was doing with his dog. So finally, I mean, it felt like I was in there an hour 30 chatting away, but it was probably 5 minutes. He looked up at me and he's holding a dog in his arm and another one's tugging at his pants leg. And he goes, "Now, really, why should I do this?" And that voice came over my shoulder and through my heart. And it said, "Because you can have the dogs in the shot with you." And I didn't know if that was true or not, you guys, but I had nothing to lose. So he looked at me, he looked at his dogs, he looked back at me and he said, "We'll do it." And that like launched my career matching celebrities to brands and ultimately led me into producing for film and television. And I got a pretty good reputation and went out to LA to run some shows and set up, some films. But with that, I was still carrying this blasted trauma that I came in with. And honestly, it's not all from my childhood, it's from the ancestral line. Because if I go back looking, oh my God, my grandfather was beaten almost to the point of death by his mean stepmother. And then he used to perpetrate that on my mother, and she was supposed to pretend like she was okay. And then she was doing the same to me.
Yeah.
So I really had to take a look at all that stuff. I have been sober since before you guys were born. And that's like the platform that I needed to really do the work to go deep. So handling multiple addictions, a 10-year bout with clinical depression until I learned to work with it. And I haven't been on medication since, not wood. And also ultimately the final thing was narcissistic abuse because I felt like, oh, I finally met my match. I moved to LA. I thought it was for this big TV job. And it was, but it was really to meet the man who would become my greatest guru, like straight down. He taught me what I really needed to learn. And it was the most excruciating lesson to go through. But he ultimately taught me how to really go within, like within, deep, not just pretend, glossy, flossy, spiritual BS. No, like go inside and stay there for a few minutes and connect with you because you're worth it. You have value. Because for years, it was always from the outside in what show I could produce, what deal I could pull off, what triathlon I was going to finish. I mean, it was all outside accolades to find that deep inner safety, security, and soothing. And that is why I'm here. That's why I've been led to write the book that I did, and now to share with others, like to wake up from this toxicity. Because after over, oh gosh, probably 150 episodes on podcasts talking about my book, I was like, yeah, this isn't just in our family lines. It's in the way we're schooled. It's in our religious structures. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's in this new age toxic spiritual hoo-hoo. It's all over the place. Yeah. And for me, what I found it is so imperative, especially at this time when we're going through all that we are, that the veils are down, you're seeing the truth, and more is going to come, and it's nasty. I need to be grounded and balanced in me so I can really feel what's important to me and my sovereignty and not become a victim of it all again. So, wow, I really blabbed on. Sorry, you guys. Got anything to say?
Don't be. That was a very interesting story. So tell us the name of your book and what you cover in your book.
My book is called Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. And believe me, that was not my title. My title was Magical Illumination, because that's what I feel like it's been over the decades. Like, walking through this and taking a look at it and having the involvement, understanding that my parents were abused children, raising abused children. That was a huge insight. But that's the name of the book. My publisher called me 2 weeks before the publishing date to say she was changing the title from Magic Illumination to Toxic Family. And I've done a lot of work, and I have a healthy relationship, believe it or not, with my family. Even my brother, who the abuse is so thick with,
Right.
his childhood is a total blackout, complete amnesia. That totally tells me he's been through hell and he can't access it or feel it. When I confronted him about the abuse, I think I worked like 2 years in group and wrote him a letter and presented it to him in person. And he said, well, that didn't happen. But if it did happen, here's why it happened. So, I just love him for what he's capable of doing. And I feel compassion for him walking around in the body that he's walking around in. Same thing with my father. He gives me what he can give me. My mother's gone now. But once I got her backstory, I was like, oh, how did she get through that? And no wonder all that was foisted upon me was. So I'm really grateful to be where I am and to have written that book because, quite honestly, those things were in pretty compartments, with my initials on the trunks, and it was all like, okay, I dealt with that, and when it would come up, I would know how, okay, that's that, and I work with it like this. But to really sit down and write
Right.
just healed it in such a deeper way. And then there's exercises in the back of that book on tools I used to help others. And I've been told that I have 3 books to write. I wanted to kick that right under the closest, rug, because writing books for me, it's not fun. It's
A lot,
it's
right?
work.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that so much. First of all, I want to just like not glaze over the fact that you met Andy Warhol. So that's really cool. Okay.
I'm surprised you know who he is. So many
Of
people these days, they don't know who he is.
We are
I
probably
mean, we're not
older.
that young.
We're probably older than you think we are.
We would like to believe that we're that young.
Yeah.
I'm
And then
30 and I'm never aging, but
but
that's
you're
really not the
aging.
truth.
Yeah.
So,
And then one of the questions I had was like, is your family still alive? So you answered that because you were just like so open right off the bat about your relationship. And often, I find my experience of talking to people is sometimes they're just not ready to open up until members are dead, right? About what's going on.
the
So
truth about it.
yeah,
Yeah, I thought about it.
Yeah.
It. But I thought, you know what? I can't write this book by committee. It feels like now's the time. I'm getting the signs.
Yeah.
And I told everyone I'm writing a book. And I thought if they ask me what it's about, I'll be happy to share. And nobody asked me. So-
Funny, right? They already knew. And then the last thing that came up for me when you were sharing was, what is your, because for me, everything's yoga. So what is your experience with yoga, and or have you ever done like yoga teacher training or anything like that?
Okay, so don't beat me with a
I
fungo
won't.
bat, but I practiced Ashtanga for 10 years and then I practiced Bikram for 20 years. And I love yoga. I love it to the end of my being, and I still do my form of yoga on my own. But I used not just yoga, but I used endurance sport and all types of movement activities like a heroin addict would use heroin. It
Mm,
was my way to
yeah,
medicate.
I'm getting
And yeah, so I had to really take a look at it, and it was forced upon me. I went from I went from triathloning, and then I was so injured, I thought, okay, I'll just swim. So it took me 4 years. I trained with world champions and Olympians. I learned how to swim. I got a national ranking, and then I couldn't walk around the block, like hip impingement. And I wasn't going the traditional Western route because of my age, they would said, insert titanium, aisle nine, and I wasn't going there. So another false construct fell, and I had to really go deep and see what I was hiding with all of this. And yoga's much different for me now. I mean, come on, like Ashtanga and Bikram, you're in there like duking it out, especially in LA. Like, forget it. It's like such a bizarre competition, you know? And when they started making reality shows about us, oh, I'm done. Yeah, no.
You know what's
Yeah.
so interesting for me with
What?
this is that when because, and now even 2 years ago, I would have had the same type of responses you have just had. And I find it so funny because what Lynn's referring to is not the asanas of yoga, not the action, not the movement of yoga. She is referring to basically yoga as, I don't want to say a religion because I call myself religion resistant, but yoga as a spiritual practice. So, like the whole purpose of the asanas, which is the acts, the movement, the whole purpose of that is to exhaust the body so that the brain can be calm and quiet at the end of your practice. And that's again just another limb. So like the breathing is one limb, the actions is one limb, the meditation and going inside is one limb. So there's all these different limbs to it. And it's just so interesting because when she asks people, everything's yoga to me, people are like, okay, so she does a lot of yoga. And she does, but not the physical asanas. She is talking about the actual practice of the whole 8 limbs of yoga when she does it.
That's why, I've been a Bikram student for 20 years because that got trained out of me.
Yeah.
Ashtanga was totally about that,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
was reading all the readings and we were making journeys and I was studying, and I'm a long-term meditator too. That's a whole separate other story. But yeah, I totally get what you're talking about. And that's been an evolutionary process. And
Mhm.
it didn't really start really making sense until I got that my being is an inside out job.
Mhm.
When I come from the outside in, and it still happens. I mean, I
Yeah.
have an ego, I'm a human being. It still
Yeah.
happens. I can see it though now. I'm like, oh, wait, roll, 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 roll. Okay. Like sit down or go for a walk with the dog or whatever. Be conscious when you're slicing this carrot instead of just dicing it as fast as you can, throw it into the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it's another way of living
Yeah.
completely.
I
And
love that.
I feel like it's been trained out of us on purpose. So
Mhm.
we don't get to that inner power.
Right.
That's our
Yeah, well,
right.
if we have that inner power, then we are the most powerful beings, and you can't control the most powerful beings, which
There you
definitely makes
go.
things challenging for
Yeah.
those who
But it's
want
a
control.
right, but it surprises your clients when you introduce them to that. You're like, well, wait, I relied on this system. It has to be this way. And they don't even understand how much esteem has been robbed.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking, they're regurgitating how they've been thought
How
and
they've been
trained.
taught to
Right.
think.
Taught. Yeah, did I
Yeah.
say thought? I meant taught. You're so smart. Mm.
Yeah,
I
definitely
totally
feel that.
I appreciate you saying that. The reason I did ask was because you said you met your guru and he taught you to look inside. So who was your guru?
So I went to LA for a job. I was invited to LA and I stayed. And I met the man that I thought was my dreamboat. Here he is, my twin flame, or what do you want to call it? I don't know. It was a twin flame for sure. It was not a soulmate.
Right.
And I stayed with him. He's an alleged narcissist. I just got more drained and drained. My life got smaller and smaller. And we had a son together. And that's when everything was really exposed because I could no longer serve him and be a basically single mom in this marriage
Yeah.
to my son. And I knew it was coming to an end, but the abandonment piece in me it's still there. And it was super strong then. And I was cognizant of it, but it's just a knee-jerk reaction. And just one day I Googled the word narcissist and up he came. And I was like, whoa. And I started to get into it. And finally, I was trying to be tricky because I was carrying the bulk of the finances and I had most of the assets because I had bought our home for our family and he was going to pay me back, the down payment, which never happened. But anyway, um, I tried to negotiate by setting up what's called a post-nuptial agreement. I
Hmm.
don't recommend that if you think your narcissist is your partner. Yeah, don't do that. We got to the last point and he folded his arms and his eyes went in those lizard-like slits. And here comes that voice again over my right shoulder through my heart. This is the universe doing for you what you cannot do for yourself because I gave myself away in relationships since Billy Fritz and the second grade. I was attached to boys, had to have one to feel whole. And so all this got ripped apart because we went back home after that session to our shared domicile. I can't even call it a home by then. And he would not vacate the master. So my bottom was to take a mattress across the house into a partial conversion that I was building at the time for our nanny. And I lived on a mattress on the floor for 1 calendar year. And I created that space as my monastery. All the while, the man that is suing me for divorce is living in the master. We are in the same location with our poor 10-year-old son living there with us. And because of my meditation experience and because what I've been told when you try to separate from a personality that's allegedly narcissistic, you need to hold no contact. And for me, that's not just verbal, that's no eye contact. And I did that for a calendar year and I went deep inside my body and I did somatic modalities of healing that shifted the neural pathways. And I came to understand what I was serving. It was totally evident. There was no way that I could convince myself otherwise. And then when I tried to, there he was. So I really had to see it. There was no escape. And I'm grateful for that calendar year it took until I could write him his 6-figure check. And on he went to the next source of supply. And that's when I really understood my own value, my own worth, and how much I had negated that, even though by then I was probably like 30 years sober and, if in every modality, heavy yoga practice, heavy meditation
Yep.
practice, it still happens. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't
Mhm.
go really inside and start to live from within, you're fluffed.
I feel like even when we do go inside and live from within, there's just certain lessons that you have to be taught. And, even for me, I would say the majority of the time, I don't repeat patterns. I typically, and Lynn can vouch for this, I typically will catch what is happening in my life and see the lesson and move from there. But there's times, and just recently, I just repeated, saw a pattern repeat, and not necessarily even with the same person, but like a pattern that just, I felt like I was stuck in a circle, and I was like, I don't know how to get out of this. But I don't repeat patterns, so I needed to dig really deep to find my way out of it. And I feel like that really kind of woke me up to the fact that, like, no matter how much healing we do, there's more fucking healing to be done.
Well, there is, and then you can embrace it because now you're familiar with the fact. That's why I call this guy my greatest guru. He woke me up so hard. There's no way I could say otherwise. And thank you for doing that. I learned your type. I'm not attracted to your type any longer. I don't need to feed myself with that. He is my greatest guru in that way. As in teacher, like people are going to get so up in arms. You're going to get comments. I'm sorry, you guys, but yeah,
We don't care.
guru as in
No, and it's
teacher.
true
And
though. Like, we don't learn from pleasure.
not
Or
not usually. I mean,
not
I would
as
like to
well.
go that way, Meredith.
Yeah.
I'm going in that direction because now I understand that these lessons, the addiction, yeah, sexual harassment in the office, and I'm the one that's fired and have to like make it happen, supporting men when we should be mutually supporting each other. All this stuff. It's perfect for where I wanted to journey in this life. Just like my family was the perfect concoction for me
Right.
to grab the soul evolution that I was going for. Now, I'm going to read the fine print in the contract next time. I am not signing up for this. Like, turn the decibel down in the
Right.
disco, like I am not doing this again because it's been a hell ride. But I feel and know the soul evolution. And now when it comes up, because it does, when it comes up, oh, okay, here it comes. Okay, who am I going to reach out to for help?
Right.
How am I going to handle this? What's the opportunity here? How am I going to see this differently? And your whole life changes. You're living in a new zip code because you're not sitting there like chewing on Kleenex, praying somebody's going to save you. Nobody's going to save you.
Yeah.
Not the government, not your teacher, not the banker, nobody. Not the ETs flying down to check us out. They're not going to help us either. Like
Mhm.
it's you. Go
Yeah.
in and use your tools.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, that is then another question why I asked about yoga, because it's like all of these lessons that you're speaking of are they're yoga. Like there's literally a book that tells you like personal responsibility is the only way you're making it out of here with any hope of meaning or purpose. Right? Essentially the sutras, which is like one of the Bibles of yoga, is like if you want out of here, you just can't keep looking outside of yourself because all of that outside of you is just bullshit. It's not real. And your perception of it is creating your experience. And so you could have come on here and said, like, I was actually quite surprised. I'm like, I don't get who your guru is. Wait, we were talking about your guru. And then I was like, shit, like, this is one of the most personal responsibility people I've ever heard because most people do not show up like that. They come on and then they're like, yeah, okay, like, I needed to learn a lesson, but this guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had no idea that you were talking about your ex-partner when you
Yeah,
said,
because
and then I
there's
met my guru.
yeah, and there's the freedom if we allow
Yeah,
it. I have so many clients that come to me so deep in the victim hole and they just can't get out. And it's just agonizing because
yeah,
they're going to stay trapped in the pain. Just like this dichotomy going black, white, left, right.
yeah,
Stop it. Like, go to center. We're
yeah,
human beings. Get the lesson. There's a lot of nefarious stuff going around, and
yeah,
we need to help each other, which we do. When there's a disaster, there's nobody like human beings getting out there and helping each other. It's
Yeah.
so exquisite. And I think I've seen it since I'm a kid, and I think it's one of my gifts, and I think it's the primary reason I'm here because this is the honest truth.
I love this. I agree 100% with what you're saying. I have my daughter just had a baby a little while ago, a few months ago.
So
Yeah,
young to that.
so I'm
What
a
is she,
grandma.
10?
So thank you. Told you I'm older than you thought. But um, so my granddaughter was born with a chromosome disorder, and now it's coming out like she's the only person in the world that has it. And it's just it's going on. It's like it's not a woe is me story. This is a very special individual that we are lucky enough to have in our family, and I'm so excited. And her mom is really moving through it, and then her dad, who is the same age as me, just had a heart attack and they were already financially stressed. There's so much going on. So when you were saying like it's getting bad and it's going to get worse, I want to hit on that. But I also, as you were saying it, want to talk about like people really are great in disasters. So I told my daughter the other day, like maybe it's time to accept some help because someone had said, could I set up a GoFundMe? And then her sister, we own a mala business. Well, I don't anymore. We owned one together and I just like gifted it to her. And she's like, I want to help. And she created a bracelet fundraiser. And she has brought in over $1,300 for her sister selling bracelets, which is super cool, by the way. We named this syndrome because there's no name for it, unicorn syndrome. And my daughter made a bracelet, I am a unicorn, and that's what's being sold. And it's really cool with the story. And then the GoFundMe and all of these, the family members and people that like just follow me in yoga are donating. And I am just brought to tears about how people show up so fully when one can feel so alone. But I would love you to talk. So thank you, everybody. I would love you to talk about what do you mean things are going to get worse? Because I don't want them to.
Well,
But I know.
yeah, I think there's a lot of spiritual hooey. Like I've heard some great spiritual masters been leading people for years. Someone shares about their son dying, and their answer was just get over it.
Right.
Like seriously, like no way. Feel it. We have got to drop this sheen that we carry around that keeps us in these boxes of pseudo, I'm okay. We've been so trained into that by every fluffing system, and it's not true. And it's not just since we've been alive. This has been going on forever,
We're not allowed to have
forever.
feelings. We're not allowed to be human, but we're human.
And we are so powerful when we have that connection, when we're able
We
to
are.
give it. Unfortunately, it's usually through trauma,
Yeah, a
through some
tragedy.
horrific, yeah. But I have total faith, that we are rising, the energies are rising, the Schumann resonance is off the chart, the frequencies are getting higher. We're able to connect from our hearts. If I hear this word mindset one more time, I'm going to set an explosive. I swear to God, drives me crazy. Yes, we have genius minds, but our hearts are where our real power is. And we cannot sit back and let other systems do it for us. I am totally like, I'm a bad one there. I let that happen. And then I woke up and I saw what was happening. No more, no more. Yeah, the truth is here. And I just really pray for your granddaughter. She's so lucky, and what a leader she is. What a leader she is already.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, she clearly very special. 1 in 8.0 blank 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 billion. Um,
Wow.
without
Yeah.
even a box. Like she doesn't even have a box to be put in.
What a mission, right?
Yeah.
What a choice. What a mission. And bless your daughter.
Yeah. Thank you. I had noticed that you have like a free offering for people, a course that they can do. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there is a course, and you can go to susangold.us, and
Okay.
it's about awakening to your inner power. I think you have to sign up for email, but honestly, I'm not one to email you like often. I send a newsletter out like once a month. Other than that, you really don't hear from me.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to offer your listeners, if you're hip to it and you feel comfortable,
Yeah.
there's so much chaos, right? There's so much chaos. Even when you're living on an island or you're living remotely, you can feel it. And I ran around in PTSD for so long, didn't know it. And this is even like after meditating and, all this stuff.
Yep.
So I really want to invite your listeners in if you'd like to take me up on it for a grounding activation. It just gets you to a point of balance where you can breathe and you can take a little peek
Yep.
that's real, that's crystal clear. And you're ready then to do your work because you don't need me to fix you. You don't. You don't need a teacher or a therapist or somebody with 70 letters behind their name. I'm sorry if either of you have so many letters behind your name. You need you. You need you. And that would be the first place to go if you're interested in that. So that's also at susangold.us.
Okay.
Love
Great.
And
it.
thank you for asking because I'd love to serve.
Yeah, that's amazing. So everybody check that out one more time at susangold.us.
Like
And I will
you,
be
you,
putting
me,
the link.
everybody.
Yes,
In the
I'll be
show
putting that
notes.
a link in our podcast as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share or ask me?
I just want to say this has been such a privilege with you guys. Like I've heard so many of your episodes and I love your energy and I love the messaging and I love your platform. And I'm so grateful because I know it takes time and it takes energy and focus. And I'm just really glad you're serving and you're here
Aw,
serving.
And
Thank you.
thank
thank
you for
you.
joining us. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And we appreciate your views and the experiences that you've had and that you've shared with us today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on our podcast. And I really appreciate where you're coming from. I'm going to download your book and So yeah, you guys make sure you go check out our website. Again, thank you, Susan, for joining us. It's been an amazing pleasure. And this will be released in, I think, 4 weeks from
Several
when
weeks.
we're recording.
Oh,
Something
that's
like
cool. That's
so.
cool.
Yeah.
We will send you links, but thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone for your guys' ongoing support. We will talk to you guys in a couple of weeks.
Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colin and Nerdy Locked Up, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.
Oh.